I'm delighted to be here with Council President Navarro to express our, first of all, thanks to you for the work that you do in Annapolis and all the great things you do for our state. Also to acknowledge our new Senator Brian Feldman and new Delegate David Hidalgo. Thank you so much for your service to our county as well. To be to the point, there are two major overriding points that I want to make today. And we've expressed those in the recent press conference and press releases. You know the challenges we have with public schools. The growth of over 2,000 students per year, more than many other counties combined. The fact that our growth continues to be a challenge for us. And when you couple that with the aging schools and the challenges of maintenance, it presents a very, very difficult challenge for us. So the number one priority for us, as you know, is the $750 million that we will be seeking to try to leverage that with the resources that we have locally here to respond to the real challenge we have in our school system. That's certainly something that is, I believe, is doable, something that I looked at last year when I supported the efforts by the city of Baltimore, and I said at that point in time that we will look to a time in which Montgomery County will seek similar treatment. That due date is now, and I am now seeking an opportunity for the state to engage with us locally to ensure that we get similar treatment from Montgomery County. With that, we'll add the overwhelming challenges we continue to have with transportation. Again, thank you for your courageous votes last year to ensure that we have the funds and resources that are needed for us to go forward with the many projects that we have in Montgomery County. Just right off the top, there are approximately 100,000 jobs that could be held in abeyance if we're not able to go forward with transportation infrastructure that obviously we need in a variety of projects. That is needed, and if you look at the distribution of the resources for the county, it still requires some local efforts. It still requires the ability for us to reach out to the county to help supplant that in order to even make that work. So this was a first, very serious, necessary first step, but it is not the last step in this saga of making certain that we have the transportation that we need in order for us to go forward. You have a list of the other projects here. I don't want to hold up too much time and preclude you from getting an opportunity to hear from some of the other people that you rarely get a chance to talk to. So I'm going to turn it over to our Council President to continue our discussion as it relates to our needs in Montgomery County.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I will apologize if I'm a little repetitive, Senator Raskin, but it's important. And so I just want to say good evening to Senator Raskin, Delegate Kaiser, members of the delegation. Thank you for the opportunity to share the council's priority with you tonight. It is great to hear from so many of our residents about what they hope that our delegation will accomplish this year in Annapolis. We are lucky to have a delegation in Annapolis that does such an outstanding job for our county residents. Last year, Montgomery County spoke with one voice, one Montgomery. At this hearing a year ago, then Council President Berliner urged the delegation to pass the transportation bill. And many people thought it wouldn't be possible. County Executive Leggett advocated then, and for a decade prior to that, in favor of increasing the gas tax to fund our long-standing priorities. And most importantly, you stood up and supported moving our key transportation projects forward. We need to follow the same model this year for school construction funding. Last year, sticking here, like our transportation infrastructure, our public school infrastructure is key to sustain economic success, to keep up with our county's growing population. I'm sure you'll hear more than a few times tonight that over the past 6 years, MCPS has grown by 14,000 students and is expected to grow by another 14,000 over the next decade. We have nearly 400 relocatable classrooms to address overcrowding. Reading classes are being held in hallways. Students don't have room to sit and eat in the cafeteria. This is not just an isolated issue affecting a few of our schools. From Clarksburg to Bethesda, Germantown to Burtonsville, schools are severely over capacity. Solving the school capacity crisis is not just a quality of life issue for our students. It is an economic imperative for our state. As the council makes land use and economic development decisions that support smart growth and encourage investment, one of the many factors we rely on is a strong school system. People will think twice about investing in Montgomery County if there isn't a seat for their children in our classrooms. Last year, Baltimore City found a creative solution to their school construction needs. I urge you to explore a similar solution that provides new state dollars to help us address our capacity crises. As always, the devil is in the details, and any proposal that moves forward will need to be vetted, and we will need to work collaborative to find compromise and realize success. But just as we were able to communicate and collaborate throughout the legislative session last year on the landmark transportation bill, I hope we will be able to work through issues as they arise this year as well.
Good evening, everyone. I have been told multiple times, and you heard our delegate Kaiser tell us not to read our testimony. So I will not read my testimony. But I do want to talk a little bit about two important words. One is crisis. And I looked up the definition of the word crisis: a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. A time when a difficult or important decision must be made. And then the other word I looked up was conundrum, because I just love that word. It sounds wonderful. And it says, a confusing and difficult problem or question. One of the most difficult, in one of an example was one of the most difficult conundrums for the experts. Then it says, a question asked for amusement, typically one with a pun in its answer or riddle. There is no pun, there is no riddle. Our crisis is the growth of our schools, our enrollment, the 2,500 students per year that we're growing. If you look between 1980 and 1980 and 2013, we're looking at an average of 2,000 students per year. 60,000 students have come into Montgomery County Public Schools. That is amazing growth. If you look just simply between the years of 2000 to 2012 or 2013, we're looking at about 14,000 students. That growth is projected to continue throughout this decade on through 2019, where we'll see a total of about 25,000 students. We've heard our county executive speak to it, our county council president. We've heard the city of Rockville, the city of Tacoma Park, the city of Gaithersburg speak to it. We appreciate all of that support because these are our children. We have got to deal with a legislative solution to help us deal with the incredible capacity crisis that we have. On to the conundrum. The conundrum to me is, how do we do this? Because I want to speak about the children that we have in Montgomery County. And when you look at the growth in Montgomery County, it is impossible for us to ignore the fact that we have seen our farms rate grow at the rate of 69% between 2000 and 2012. We have seen our ESOL population almost double, 98% growth in our ESOL population. So we're talking now about how do we deal with growth overall in our school system, but then also growth in poverty in our community. So our county council, which the board tussles with all the time, and it's okay, has to figure out, how do you fund the schools? We are appreciative of the maintenance of effort legislation that exists, the requirement that exists, but we also know that it does create a conundrum. It does create a difficult situation for us, because those same dollars that are committed to education are dollars that we have to figure out, how are we going to commit to housing, health care, public safety, and all of the other issues that come with the browning and the lowering of the income of our families in Montgomery County. So we are dependent on you, in particular at this moment, to help us come up with a solution that deals with this conundrum. Now, the folks that wrote the testimony didn't necessarily want me to go into this detail, but I believe it's important for us to talk because we're talking in-house right now. Okay, so I know you all understand how our population has changed. But the other part of that is really compelling and I cannot ignore is it is creating competition for dollars. And the competition is really interesting because it means as we figure out how to continue to fund the schools as we should, and this county has been incredibly generous. I cannot speak kindly enough to the commitment our citizens have to funding education in Montgomery County. But the other side of that is that we have a real limitation on revenue. And we have to figure out how are we going to deal with, on the capital side, building the buildings that we need and building the seats that we need for young people who are coming in, once again, at 2,500 students per year. Okay, so if you looked at the growth between 2000 and 2012, that's about 39 elementary schools that we needed. We did not build 39 elementary schools in that 12-year period. So our young people are in relocatables, and you've heard the stories. We don't need to go into that. But the other side of that is that we have real needs when it comes to poverty in this community, and folks don't want to talk about poverty in Montgomery County, but it is a reality for us. So when we talk about the farms rate of our young people, the proxy that we use in the schools to deal with poverty, one, farms has grown tremendously in this county. But what's really important is to understand that 78% of the young people who are farms in this county get free meals because their families make that little amount of money. Let me look at my piece here. I pulled up the stat. I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me, but it is about, well, no, it is here. It is about 49,000 students we're talking about. And of those 49,000 students, their families, for a family of 4, are not making $40,000 to live in Montgomery County, to survive in Montgomery County. So again, I go back to the word conundrum. We have a riddle. We have to solve it. It is a difficult one. There is pressure on our county council to address the fiscal realities. We have a crisis. I go back to that word again, here in Montgomery County Public Schools. We have no space. And in the county, I don't know where we're going to build the buildings. That's another conundrum. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your energy. And I pray that you can help us to figure out how to address this crisis that we have in our schools and deal with the conundrum, which is going to be your job to come up with the solution. So on behalf of the Board of Education, Montgomery County Public Schools, my colleague Phil Kaufman, who is in the audience, and other members of the Board of Education, thank you, and we'll be glad to answer other questions and to deal with 2 other pieces. I'm sorry, because I have to kind of be close to what was in the testimony. Of course, 2 other things that are important to the Board of Education are adequate funding for education and the issue of the Common Core state standards. We are very concerned about how we use or don't use the MSAs and the park assessments that are coming down the pike. So I'll be glad to answer questions if you have them later. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any questions? Delegate Lukey.
Mr. Barclay, thank you for coming. You mentioned at the end of your testimony Common Core and Park, and I want to make sure that you have a chance to bring to the delegation's attention the fiscal consequences of the park implementation, because I think the delegation's aware by now that, you know, we've got 1 more year of the MSA test, even though it's a meaningless test that we're spending millions of dollars on. But next year we'll be implementing Park, which is a computer-based test, and there is, to my knowledge, not a single elementary or middle school in the county that currently has the infrastructure necessary to give it. So what are we talking about in terms of capital investment that will be necessary for us to administer the park?
As I understand, and we're still looking at this, we're looking at the need to purchase about 18,000 computers. 18,000 computers in a year to be able to administer those tests. I couldn't give you the unit price, I'm sorry, for each computer, but you can imagine that's going to be significant. Now, that only covers having the hardware. And then we've got the infrastructure issues that we've been working on. This council has been great in helping us to make sure that all of our schools are wireless, but there are all kind of other issues that come with doing the park. One that more I'm becoming aware of, one is that we can't do things like have wireless keyboards. They have to be connected. I didn't know that, but recently it was something that I was told. Well, that's going to mean that we may have had wireless keyboards for those units that would have been used, but we're stuck in this position where we may have to kind of rewire things. So our chief technology officer is working diligently, and his team is working diligently to really figure out what that investment is going to be, but it will be significant. I mean, if you're looking at 18,000 computer units is just one thing, then the issue of making sure that we have the bandwidth to deal with having all of this done online.
So as of yet, has the state offered to assist with any of the capital costs related to the
I
park?
haven't seen anything coming
So it's
from
an
the state.
unfunded mandate.
That is the nicest way to put it, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Delegate Collison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you help me understand why the state has decided to go ahead with the MSAs this year when they're not necessarily going to inform us as we move forward with Common Core standards?
To be frank, no, I can't. I wish I could help you understand why. We are clear that everyone is moving in the direction of the Common Core. We've been doing this for quite some time. So from kindergarten through 5th grade, we have rolled out the Common Core standards in our Curriculum 2.0. The standards that are used in Curriculum 2.0 are very different than what's in the MSA, but the state is still requiring that we administer the MSA. I couldn't answer that with certainty why they decided to go in that direction. I would definitely point you to MSDE.
Do you have a ballpark figure in terms of how much it costs to administer the MSAs in 1 year?
I don't, but we surely can get you that information. I'm sorry I don't have it.
Delegate Gutierrez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barclay. This whole issue of the Common Core is really a concern, a national concern, and I've been following a number of organizations and large groups that are very concerned. Particularly one that I've been following is that Park, for example, does not address ELLs, has no ability to help support what ELLs are going to need. No scaffolding, nothing. My question to you is, do you know if MABE or anything at the state level, superintendents organizations are joining hands so that we at the state are getting a cohesive measure, voice, message, so that we can raise it at the state level? I think this is getting to that crisis, and I really do not think we are ready to move to full implementation of Common Core right now. Do you know if MABE has taken a position or superintendents have?
I am not positive that MABE has taken a position. I can say that in our annual conference this year, we definitely had several workshops about the Common Core and about the park assessments. There is the concern this year that all school districts will have the opportunity to pilot the park assessments. So the issue is they will be, the challenge I could say is who in those schools that will be piloting the park assessments will take the test. And right now, I know that superintendents are very concerned because the onus has been on the principals of those individual schools to do that, and we all know that that's a terrible position to put principals in. So I know that our superintendents are going to the state superintendent about that particular issue, but in terms of MABES lobbying in any way on the park assessments, I think right now we've been gathering data because we're concerned about the issue that Representative Lucky, brought to us, which is how do we fund just the process of being able to have the computers to do this online. And then there are a whole bunch of other issues that have to be dealt with. The one that you brought up about ELL is one. Of course, we're going to have to deal with the issues that we have with our special education students also. So there are a lot of issues that are to be determined when it comes to the administering of the park assessments. So we're continuing to get information. So we could find out more in terms of MABE's position. I'm just not familiar with it, so I don't want to speak any further about that one.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Ann Rood, and I'm a board member on the Future Farquhar Community Coalition. I have two children in Montgomery County Public School Systems. One was a 2013 graduate of Sherwood and of Farquhar, and a 7th grader at Farquhar. I'm here tonight to talk to you about Farquhar Middle School. First, let me start by thanking all of you for working with a dedicated team of parents to enable the land swap option for Farquhar instead of busing our children 3 hours round trip to Bethesda. The support of the Board of Education, Superintendent Starr, County Council, Executive Legate, and you, our state rep and senators, have been invaluable. The Farquhar community appreciates how you have listened and responded to the desires of your constituents. I'm here tonight to urge you to fund the capital improvement plan to handle the new school capacity and the existing modernization backlog to keep Farquhar modernization plan on schedule. The need for this modernization is great. As you know, Farquhar Middle School is the oldest middle school in the county, and the community has been working for a very long time to see this project come to fruition. We think it's better to put our county and state resources into a new building than to pour repair monies into buildings that will ultimately need replacement anyway. Farquhar's physical condition is rapidly deteriorating. Our building leaks. During meetings in the library, we can see towels in the ceiling to cover the leaky vents. The current school building continues to suffer from excessive mold. Athletic supplies that have been in storage for any length of time cannot be used because of the mold. We also have sewage breaks and backups. This results in raw sewage draining across the sidewalk into the main street. And when there is a backup in the back of the building, raw sewage leaks into the floors and drains. We also have air problems, and believe it or not, we have a lighting problem because specifically bulbs cannot be replaced because they're no longer made. These issues continue to be costly to the county. The time and money it takes to maintain these issues will disappear once the new facility comes. The Board of Education understands this and proposes to keep our modernization on its original schedule, starting construction in 7 months. We ask you to make the case in Annapolis to fund it and the other capital improvement projects to keep our county schools moving forward towards a better condition, not worse. Thank you for your time and your continued support of our great school, Farquhar Middle School.